very, very topical because MPs are calling for British citizens facing extradition to be given greater rights. And this centres on the Gary McKinnon case. Gary McKinnon currently fighting extradition over allegations he hacked into computers at the Pentagon. His mother, Janice Sharp, joins me now. Janice, very good to see you. Well, yesterday's revelations about Ryan Cleary, this Essex teenager, will that have helped or hindered Gary's case?
I don't actually know, but the Joint Committee of Human Rights has brought out this new proposal, guidelines, that they're recommending that we bring in forum, which means that you be tried in the country you were physically in when the crime was committed. And if that happens, it will stop all these sort of injustices taking place, because you always had a right to be tried by a jury of your peers, which is here. The other boy, I'm just hoping, he's 19, and it all gets blown out of proportion. But the reality is, he's a 19-year-old sitting in his bedroom, and I'm hoping he's got a lawyer, because Gary was questioned without a lawyer. A boy a couple of days ago that's now been threatened with extradition, Richard O'Dwyer, he didn't have a lawyer during questioning, and I'm hoping that this boy's got a lawyer.
But you see, that, Janice, a lot of people don't see this as a real crime, and a lot of people see this as very much a real crime on what people like Gary is accused of doing. You are his mum, of course. Yeah. He is your son. What is it you are actually defending? Are you defending what Gary did, or are you defending, or you're trying to get people to understand why he did it?
Neither, really. I mean, they left Gary. Gary was arrested in March 2002.
That's an interesting thing, because this has been going on, what, 9 years now?
10 years since the alleged crime and more than 9 years since the arrest. But when he was arrested, he was left on his computer for 3.5 years afterwards. Now, if Gary was perceived as the slightest threat by either the Americans or the British, would you leave him on his computer for 3.5 years? It doesn't make sense. And the extradition treaty wasn't even written when Gary did this, but they waited until it started being used, late 2004, and requested Gary's extradition in 2005.
So where has he been all this time? I mean, a lot of people will have seen the news and they thought, well, surely he was extradited a long time ago, but not the case.
Thank heavens he wasn't, because it is so wrong. I mean, extradition was meant to bring you back from a country where you fled from, where you had committed a heinous crime. It was generally used for murder, terrorism and the like. By us signing this treaty, we signed away the rights of our own citizens, and it is now being used for things it was never intended to be used for. Yes,
but things have changed. Things have changed, because what they're saying is Gary committed a crime in their country. Yes, because technology's changed. That means he doesn't have to physically leave Britain to possibly do that, though.
But that's no more than making a long-distance telephone call. The reality is cyberspace is like Never Never Land. He is here. And also, if kids in this country, Gary wasn't a child, but he's got Asperger's syndrome.
Janice, do you believe he did it?
He didn't commit the damage, which is what makes it extraditable. The offence of computer misuse isn't enough for extradition. And had we still had the prima facie evidence, which we were supposed to have in 2002, he could have proved in this court he didn't commit the damage. But whereas now what they can do is, America can take anyone, as can Europe at the moment, on mere suspicion, whereas if we want to take someone from another country, we have to provide probable cause, which is evidence they can contest in their own courts. Don't we deserve equal rights to Americans?
Well, isn't it amazing that somebody like yourself, who had a life and a career and everything that you were doing, you now become an expert in this, because you have to become an expert in this over the past 9 or 10 years. What do you make now? Are you any further forward with this Joint Committee's findings?
I think we are, because it's quite important people. It's cross-party for a start, politicians and peers, and they've recommended this just before the extradition treaty review comes out, and hopefully the extradition review will bring in forum. But I think it should be automatic. If you're physically here, you should be tried here. But I mean, at the last meeting between President Obama and David Cameron in the Worldwide Press Conference, they actually spoke about Gary, and President Obama said it's a British decision and they will respect it and accept it, which is wonderful.
Yeah, that has to be positive towards you. Meanwhile, though, of course, it's not resolved. And whatever the rights and wrongs, and believe me, this morning we will be criticised for seemingly defending Gary or not seeing this as a crime one way or the other. You'll get people with strong views on this. What has life been like for him and for you? Obviously, you end up campaigning almost full time for this. What is life like for him waiting for this to be sorted out?
It's horrendous, because what people don't realise is extradition is a bigger punishment than if you served years in a prison in your own country. The terror of being extradited, and also America's got an entirely different system. The sentences are often way out of proportion. I mean, talking about 60 years, 10 years per count. But Gary, his mental health has deteriorated so much. He's got severe depression, he's suicidal. Every morning he wakes up, he's got horrendous pains in his chest. It's ruined our lives. We don't have a life. When I wake up in the morning, it's the first thing I think about. All day I work on it until I sleep at night, because I'm so terrified of Gary going there. It's a non-violent crime. British people maybe do have a more relaxed attitude, because if the people here weren't doing it, who aren't terrorists, would the governments rather that it all happened? I mean, would they actually alert them to their security is really bad? That's the first thing. And in this country, Russians actually did some hacking. In a high court in London, the judge ruled that they would not extradite him because it was disproportionate, and that because the place didn't have good security in the first place, they would have to have paid thousands or millions in order to upgrade it. So there is an argument that, in a way, they're testing the security for free. And I'm not excusing it. What Gary did was wrong. Had he been tried here, sentenced here, served his time, it would have been over with. The extradition was never meant for this kind of crime.
And you just wish it to be over?
Oh, gosh, yeah. But I mean, I'm hoping that it will be after the press conference with Obama and David Cameron. I'm just waiting and hoping for good news.
Janice, thank you very much indeed. That's Janice Sharp. She's Gary McKinnon's mother. And Gary is fighting extradition over allegations he hacked into computers of the Pentagon. Thank you for your time. Thank you.